Francis, let's talk some Portland Trailblazers basketball, because going into this season, we have to decide whether they are overrated or underrated. They slightly overachieved last year.
I think they largely overachieved, but that's just my point of view. Given their massive loss of LaMarcus Aldridge.
Well, right. So, of course, they lost 4 of their 5 starters going into last season. They beat the Clippers, but they beat a Clippers team that when the Clippers early on in the series had Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre, J.J. Redick hitting his threes and everything was churning, it looked like it was going to be a 5-6 game series in favor of the Clippers, but then Chris Paul injury, Blake Griffin injury, Damian Lillard time, C.J. McCollum gets hot, and they went on. And they had a 5-game, they took 1 from the Warriors, again, in the second round of the playoffs. So this year, we're just looking at their roster, looking at their pickups. I know you know the 2 names, the big names that they picked up going into the season. Do you think that they're going to be overrated because we saw what happened last year, or still underrated and will sneak up into the 4 seed-ish area?
I think you put Portland Trailblazers on the Eastern Conference, they're maybe going in overrated. You keep them in the Western Conference where no matter who they pick up, it's still going to be overshadowed by the pickups in the Western Conference.
Like who?
They're going to be underrated. And I think that's what Portland likes to be. I think Rip City likes to be the team that everyone expects to be decent at times. And if Damian Lillard gets hot, and now we've the new acquisitions of Festus Ezeli and Evan Turner, you're thinking, all right, they could be good, but they still won't make it that far. And that's just that we're programmed to think that way. When you think about the Trailblazers, like this is a team who, at one point, for me, was one of the most enjoyable basketball teams to watch in the Western Conference when LaMarcus Aldridge was there, when Damian Lillard and those guys were starting to click together. But I think they took a massive blow. The one thing that has to be said is you have to give credit to their general manager, who seems to be, what's his name again, Dan?
Neil O'Shea.
Neil O'Shea. You have to give credit to their general manager, Neil O'Shea, who seems to be rebuilding this team. I mean, they took massive losses a couple of years back, and they did so well last year. Yeah, all the different moving pieces went in favor for them. The Clippers weren't playing very well. The Clippers, they were playing well, and then they lost the majority of their starters. And as soon as Chris Paul goes off, no matter who is able to fill in, it's still not going to be the same team. I think that's a massive loss for them. But you have to play who you're up against. How many teams if we can make these excuses all the time, of the asterisks is who was injured in this game and who didn't play. But the thing I have to give credit to the Trailblazers is they like being underestimated. They like to play into that theory.
They fuel off of it. So Damian Lillard, snubbed from the All-Star game, he used that as motivation.
Yeah.
And then he started to tear up the second half of the season, even more so than the first half of the season. He raised his points per game by about 3. He finished amongst the top 10 in scoring last year. Obviously, something in that man's body clicks in the fourth quarter. And it's not that so much that he wants the ball and he wants to take that shot. He doesn't ever seem to miss when the game is on the line, when there's 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. He attacks the rim. He's a slasher to get there. He also can step back and drain a 25, 26-footer with relative ease.
Yes.
C.J. McCollum came kind of out of nowhere, right? This Lehigh product really worked well in Terry Stotts' offense. A lot of the attention is on Damian Lillard, right? That is their anchor. And without LaMarcus Aldridge there anymore from last season, guys like Myers Leonard and Mason Plumlee aren't going to fill that void, especially in the scoring department. Of course, you can always find your rebounds, find some blocks along the way, work back to the basket off the block basketball. That's something that can be done to not LaMarcus Aldridge's level, but a competent enough level.
Yeah.
It's not just like Damian Lillard was the only reason that team was able to exceed expectations. Again, they blew by their total over-under win total from the Vegas odds by about 10.
Yeah.
10 wins better, at least that they were 10 wins better. So this year with Evan Turner coming in, and I encourage you to check out all of Evan Turner's post-game press conferences. Things like, I watched Michael Jordan do it. I felt like, yeah, I'll just add that to my game. And Festus Ezeli, who I think that's a guy that he played on a 73-win team where everybody looked like they could be an all-star at their position when everything was clicking with the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
I don't think Terry Stotts is the type of guy to make Festus Ezeli expect to be this revolutionary center in their lineup. But I do think that it's another piece as you mentioned, this underdog mentality goes a long way. And I think they will compete with a Thunder, Russell Westbrook's Thunder now, especially if he stays, for a 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, I think so.
They're overrated if they become a 6 or 7 seed. I think that they're underrated if they become a 4 seed.
I think they'll be looking over their shoulder with the Timberwolves coming up behind them. We talked about this. I think this is the one team that I could see exchanging positions. But I didn't know if I was going to disagree, if I'm at that bold enough point yet where I say that I think that Festus Ezeli may be intrigued in the idea of becoming a bride and no longer being the bridesmaid, the utility player, the rotation man.
He's going to get a lot
in
more
the Golden, he's going to get a lot more minutes. And I think that when he was given the opportunity, he didn't let anyone down at Golden State. And I think that's the best way to put it. And I know Coach Nick, who was on our show, is a big fan of Festus Ezeli. We were talking about the Trailblazers, and he's like, they've brought in Ezeli, largely considered one of the most underrated signings in the free agency window. And I think that, I called it a window, because it's a transfer window. Get it? Free agency window! It's coming to basketball. Either way.
I called it a window.
Festus Ezeli is going to be a crucial part in whether or not this team surpasses expectations. But we would like to say that there's a bunch of moving pieces, Jay. But overall, if Damian Lillard does Damian Lillard things, this team can go on and upset anyone.
So I actually wanted to touch on one more thing. So in our comment section, somebody said, Jason, what do you think the chances of Damian Lillard winning the MVP are? And so, some people kind of immediately rushed that and said, are you crazy?
But are you crazy?
No, he's not crazy. First of all, he's just asking what the chances were. Don't take this poor guy out of
saying
context.
there's a chance.
Saying there's a chance. He would have to lead the league in scoring.
Yes.
And again, the MVP, 80% of the time, is a scoring award. They give it to the top scorer, save for the AIs of the world, who actually was pretty high in the scoring chart, Steve Nash's of the world, that kind of thing. So Damian Lillard to win MVP, he'd have to be first or second in the league in scoring, and the Blazers would have to finish with a top 2 seed, maybe 3 seed. They'd have to be a 55, 60 win team.
Yeah.
Which we've seen crazy things happen, right? And I wanted to talk about it real quick because I'm not bringing it to the Warriors. I'm just saying with all those players in one place, I don't think the numbers will be there. I think they'll all have great numbers across the board, but they're not going. I don't think they're going to see an MVP get somebody who's getting 21 points per game and 5 assists per game. I think Russell Westbrook, if he stays on the Thunder, is your outright favorite.
I think that's a great point, and also.
But Lillard could. Why can't Lillard do it? Why can't he score 30 points?
The reason why I was going to say is because I watched Portland quite closely last year, and they don't run a system that allows Damian Lillard to be in contention with the Steph Curry in terms of shooting. That's why Damian Lillard is snubbed from the All-Star, because he's a great scoring point guard. But when you're playing up against a guy who's breaking consistent records for 3 points, you're trying to match a guy who's just shooting consecutively in threes. So they have to run a system.
400 threes next
exactly.
year.
That's what I'm saying. The Portland Trailblazers would have to run a system because when you see Klay Thompson get open and Steph Curry get open, it's not coincidental. They're running that system so that those two consecutively are going to be open for those looks, and they make a lot of them in comparison to the ones they miss. So unless the Trailblazers were to suddenly just going to be all right, we're going to run a system that allows for consecutive 3-point shots from Damian Lillard, they won't be able to compete with a team like that. But this is one question I did want to ask is Kevin Durant in contention for MVP? And the reason I don't think he is because I don't see Golden State running a system that's going to benefit Kevin Durant more so than it would benefit a Steph Curry, because it's still going to be Steph Curry's MVP to lose, in my opinion.
I don't think there's enough numbers to be put up. Again, it's a stat-heavy award. First of all, if Russell Westbrook averages near a triple-double, you can literally hand it to him. If he averages a triple-double,
he's on a team that's not going to cloud his shooting anymore.
If he averages a triple-double, you have your second straight unanimous MVP choice. And it's a regular season award. If they should have a playoffs MVP award, by the way.
I agree.
They should do it like hockey, bringing in so many random elements where there's a playoffs MVP, not just Stanley Cup.
Not just finals MVP. Yeah,
I think that's such a deserving thing to have, and it's easier, bigger sample size. So Lillard can win it if he were to lead the league in scoring, hit 300 threes,
regular season,
round out the stat sheet, right? Durant, Curry, Thompson, Draymond Green. I don't see them, except for Draymond Green, really stuffing the stat sheet to 28 points per game, 7 assists and 5 rebounds. I think because there's that extra superstar.
Spread the floor more?
I think they're all going to have. I think you're going to see Thompson, Curry, and Durant all average 20 points per game, which, by the way, might have never have happened in the past. You might have 3 guys that are in the top 12, 15 in scoring, which is remarkable. Actually, it's amazing if you think about it. So many shots to go around. Chris Paul deserves some votes. Right, Dan? Right. Damn straight. Derrick Rose's resurgence is here.
Designating votes before the season's even started. That's what we do here on TYT.
I like the Trailblazers. I think that they're appropriately rated.
You think so?
They're ever so slightly underrated.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So slightly. Not like, oh my God, they're still such a huge underdog. It's just ever. I love Terry Stotts' offense.
I just think that's what they like to be. Even if they had acquired a big name signing this year, I think there would be some sort of way where people would play it down. They'd be like, yeah, but they've still got these things to try and fill that void. They've still got these holes left in that team, and they like being that team. That's the reason that they thrive off it, because expectations are not set to a ridiculous height where they're like, the Trailblazers are just messing up. They're not reaching that level.
It's a good point. We'll wrap on that. Sometimes when there's an expectation of 40 wins, it's easy to hit your goals. Mm-hmm. 73 wins, that's kind of a high expectation. Damian Lillard for MVP, question mark. Where do you think that the Blazers will finish next season? Are they overrated or underrated? Follow at Francis Maxwell, at Francis_Maxwell on Twitter. Actually, everything's in the description box. It's updated. You can actually click on the links and go to them, including TYT Sports on Facebook, Twitter. We don't have Snapchat. We barely use Instagram. We'll see you.